So hi Greg, welcome to the webinar.
Hi Trish.
So the title is Introducing OCL, Breaking the Slow Turnaround Cycle for Business Rules. I organised the webinar on your request to show you how to write OCL, but do you want to say a little bit first about what you're interested in, Greg?
Yeah, sure, Trish. Thanks. Obviously, I'm interested to see how you go about writing OCL. I see a lot of promise in that, in OCL. But in particular, I guess no point in writing it unless I get some value out of it. So I'm keen to understand how to get value. What can I put it? What use can we put it to? And then another question I would have is, what would I do next if I want to explore a bit more? What's the sort of things I could do?
Okay, so very briefly, where you get value is you get value by generating code from the OCL rules that you write and deploying that generated code to test our production systems. And I'll talk a little bit after I've done a demo about how you can get started. So I'll start on the demo now. But for others who have joined the webinar, you can submit questions during the webinar, and I'll open the session later for anyone who wants to join in a discussion. So Greg, here's what I'm going to demo. I'm going to write a very simple business rule in OCL. I'm going to compile, exercise and test the rule, and I'm going to create some executable rule sets. I'll use MagicDraw from NoMagic and the Cameo OCL Transformer from Noma Software. And the prerequisites for what I'm about to do is you need to have a UML model and you need to have generated some XML schema. So I've already done that for the model that I'm going to show you. So let's go to MagicDraw. So here we have a very simple MagicDraw model, and it's modeling a payments file. There's a header containing a total for the amount for the payments listed in the file, and there's a number of payments records in the file, each containing an amount. Now what I am going to do is add a rule on this simple model. The rule I'm going to add will say that the total in the header is equal to the sum of the amounts in all of the payments. So over here on your left you can see that there's already an OCL rule. We've got our context payments file, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that rule and create a new rule. So very simply, I can select copy, I can select paste, and we have a new rule. I'm going to drag it over into this table that I created in MagicDraw, which contains a list of OCL rules. What I'll do now is I'll put in a name, a description, and the actual OCL for the rule. So I'll put in a name, total matches sum of payments. I'll put in a description. The total in the header must match the sum of all the payments in the file. The description is really important. Yeah, Greg?
Yeah, I think you're about to say, I was going to ask you, that says error message, right? So you just call it a description. So is the description and the error message is the same thing? Is that what the description
and the error message are the same thing here, though you could add in another description, and sometimes we do that if you want a higher level business description, but it's really important that when you write a piece of OCL you have an error message that you can return when the OCL constraint fails.
So if I get the English definition from the business users, that's exactly what appears in the error message of the code.
Sure. Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Now I'll go and write the OCL. So we're saying that the header.total is equal to all of the amounts in all of the payments summed. So there's my OCL, and actually I've created a little error in that because I want an error to occur. What I can do now is so I've written some OCL, and what I can do is I can use the OCL transformer to generate executable code for that OCL. So now it's calling out.
Plugin, right?
That's the OCL
that's
transformer
plugin.
plugin. That's right. That's the Noma OCL transformer plugin.
Right. So I got that. I saw that on the web, on the MagicDraw website, right?
Yeah, that's available for download from the MagicDraw website.
Right, right. So that's compiling that rule into Java. Is that what's happening at the minute?
That's compiling the rule into Java, and the rule has failed. There's a compiler error. There's an unknown property amount in the rule. So you can select this error message in MagicDraw, and you can select the actual rule that failed to compile in the tree, and I will now correct the rule. So I had mistyped amount. It should be amount. I correct it, and I will recompile. So hopefully this time it will work. So once you've written the rule and compiled it, then you can, what you need to do is test the rule. So now our compilation has completed, and in fact what I've done here now is I've generated a rule set. So there's 3 rules in the rule set, but what I want to do is I want to test the new piece of OCL that I've written. So I prepared in advance, I prepared a little XML file which contains some payments data which I know is going to break this particular rule. So you can see here there's 2 payments in the file, and there's a header, and the sum of the payments is 40, but the total in the header is 20. So this rule, if I execute this rule against this file, it should fail. So within MagicDraw now, what I can do is I can do validate XML. I'm going to select the file that I just showed you, which should fail this rule. I'm going to select the generated rule set, the Java code that I had just created, and I got an error saying that the total in the header must match the sum of all the payments in the file, so it's detected that there is an error in this file.
That file, Trish, that XML you just showed, that matches the XML schema that reflects that data model you just showed.
Yeah. So here's the model. It's a payments file which contains any number of payments and a header. And there's an XML schema. In fact, the XML schema here is the XML schema that I had generated out of MagicDraw for this, for the model I showed you here. Very simple example.
So you use the MagicDraw sort of export function to export the XSD for this from this UML diagram, right?
Yeah. Yeah, use the
right,
no
that
magic.
gave you the schema, right, and then you've written XML against that schema, and then we've validated using the Java, right, got it?
That's right. And if you need information about how to generate schemas out of MagicDraw, there you can have a look on our blog. We have some information on that on our blog. I'm very briefly going to validate the XML against a valid payments file, because when you write a rule, it's always a good idea to check that it works correctly when you test against some good data. So in this case, validation completed and no errors were found. So there we have what I've done is I've written a piece of OCL and I've compiled it, generated Java code from it, and I've tested it against some incorrect data and some correct data. So now I'm confident that that OCL is correctly written. And what I've actually done is in here you'll see there's this is the directory where the generated code sits. And you can take this generated code, which was just generated a few minutes ago, and you can drop that into your test or production system and use that code to actually test real XML data.
So I could drop that Java into a land and load process, into a test harness, into a web service, into a front end.
Absolutely.
The same Java being dropped into many places. So, right. So I've got one rule deployed into each of those targets.
That's exactly it. And so in here we provide a document which shows you how to use the Java API, the runtime Java API, to call into this code. But we also provide a validation web service. And there are a number of ways in which you can make use of this these jar files. So just going back to the slides and to your question around how to get value from this, Greg. So what you're doing is you're getting fast turnaround on business rules with quality. So you capture your rules in your model, so you get better requirements. You test the rules as you write them, so you've got a better process. You're authoring and testing at the same time. You generate executable code from it, so that gives you agility in your project. You don't have a dependency on a separate programming team. You share the executable code with multiple teams. So for example, you can put that generated code behind a web service and make that web service available for use across multiple applications. So each application and each team does not have to install the rules, they just have to use the web service that runs the rules. And lastly, you can reuse and repurpose the rules, Greg, so that if you've written a load of rules on your data model for one project and you are going to be using a very similar data model and a lot of very similar rules, you can harvest the rules from the existing project and reuse in new projects. And that is what will help you improve your time to market.
So that OCL, we're currently putting specs out, right, using MagicDraw report writer to output specs from the data model. So that the OCL, the English version of the spec comes out, of the business rule comes out. The OCL version of the spec comes out on the spec, and then we're generating the Java to test into and validate data to that spec.
Sure.
And all those things are in lockstep, right?
All of those things are in lockstep.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a real problem where I'm at the moment. Yeah.
So and yeah, you can use MagicDraw has document generation capability, so you can generate your specs directly from it.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
So then you also asked, how do you get started? So Greg, what you can do is you can download MagicDraw from the No Magic website, and you can download the Cameo OCL Transformer, and you can just start to play. And what we recommend on a team is to get one person on the team to work with your model, add some example OCL into the model, because actually the logic for most rules in a model are very, very similar. So if you can produce some example OCL, that'll help others get started on OCL. You get this person to create XML data, and you get the end-to-end process working. Once you have your example OCL and the end-to-end process working, then you try and roll out across the team. And people within the team, your analysts, your systems analysts, they can write rules by copying and pasting the examples, and they can learn and get up to speed very quickly this way.
Sounds great. Can I come back to you with questions?
Sure. So Greg, there's you can actually take a look at the case studies and other resources that are on our website. You can download and play from the links provided here. And if you want, we can organize another online meeting to help you get started. You can also follow us on Twitter and on LinkedIn.
I think I'm already following you on Twitter, but I may well come back to you with more questions.
Very good.
Don't you worry about that. Yeah,
Okay.
Tricia, great. Thanks, Tricia. It's really fabulous.